Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for 10 minutes to discuss how you can support well-being within your team. As always, please give yourself that gift of 10 minutes of undistracted attention as we focus today on the leadership support building block of well-being with an exploration of how leaders support well-being through our speaking and listening. And I just want to apologize in advance. There's going to be no cool juggling or other fun tricks today. We do have a lot to cover, though. So let's kick off with a few moments of reflection. When is the last time you felt truly heard and understood during a one-to-one conversation at work? When is the last time you felt truly heard and understood in a meeting? And if it's challenging to think about this, ask yourself the question, when have I felt that I've had the space to fully express my thoughts at work? Now, this, I think we've skipped a slide. Let me go back. I want to pause here for a moment to revise the title of our session, to reflect what we're really going to be focusing on today. So we're going to be focusing on listening, and speaking. Ironically, this ancient wisdom from Epictetus about listening seldom translates into the preparation we get for life and leadership at school and college. We're encouraged to enhance our speaking, our persuasive skills, our presentation skills. Our job descriptions often include these markers of effective communication, but seldom, unless we're training for a listening profession, are we offered opportunities to hone our listening skills. And Richard Branson encourages leaders to lead by listening, because he says that to be a good leader, you have to be a great listener. I'm going to ask Meg to share the link for this column from the New York Times called Talk Less, Listen More, Here's How. It was subtitled Lessons in the Art of Listening from a CIA agent, a focus group moderator, and more, and it's a fun read. Kate Murphy writes that it is only by listening that we engage, understand, empathize, cooperate, and develop as human beings. And it's fundamental to any successful relationship, whether that's personal, professional, or political. And for those of you who say we don't do big P political here, that's true, but there's lots of small p political stuff going on in our work day by day. Murphy also goes on to say listening goes beyond simply hearing what people say. It also involves paying attention to how they say it and what they do while they're saying it, in what context, and how what they say resonates with you. Remembering, of course, that what resonates with us is a function of what we're storing up here in our brain, in our emotional history. Murphy says a lot of listening has to do with how you respond. The degree to which you facilitate the clear expression of another person's thoughts in the process, and in that process crystallize your own. How we respond is worth looking at a bit closer, though. We respond in so many ways. We can respond verbally and non-verbally. And a common challenge is that we respond with an answer far too soon. So how can we facilitate that process of discovery or clarification? Be cautious, particularly when people are asking you questions. Our tendency may be to answer that question immediately, and in doing so, we may close down the discovery and the identification of what really the issue is for the person we're listening to. In fact, Simon Sinek cautions us that listening is not understanding the words of the question asked, but listening is understanding why that question was asked in the first place. Remember, we're not listening to judge someone's reason for asking a question or for offering their perspective. We are simply curious to understand them. And remember that the first question asked is seldom the most important question. Listening is about discovery and insight, and that, friends, requires space. So when I think of silence as the spaces we include in our listening. And coincidentally, listen and silent are spelt with the same 6 letters. I invite you to think back to a recent conversation you've had as a leader, especially one in which questions were shared. How much silence was present? How much space was allowed for people to formulate their questions or comments? How much space was allowed before other people jumped in with a response? The presence of silence and our comfort level with allowing silence are great predictors of the quality of the listening that is taking place. And I've come to believe personally that holding silence is one of the hardest things that we're asked to do as leaders, especially in times of crisis or when people are emotionally upregulated. So here are a few practical tips to support listening. The first is to ground yourself in your intention to be present and to listen. The second is to practice becoming comfortable with silence, and not just silence in the room, but silence in our brains. And that requires us to notice the distraction that is provided by that loud inner voice. And it can be quite loud at times. And finally, when all else fails and you just want to speak, use wait. Why am I talking? So now let's turn our attention to speaking in a way that supports well-being. As leaders, we spend a lot of time every day speaking to others, and usually we're focused on what is being said or what we think needs to be said. The risk of this is that we can lose sight of the more important elements of speaking, which are the why we speak and the how we speak. So let's think for a moment, why are we talking? As leaders, why are you talking? Is it to communicate facts and updates, share ideas, give instructions, directions, provide feedback? Is it to learn about our team's needs or experience, performance? Is it to support our team's well-being? But now I'm going to ask a tough question, one that I personally struggle with, because it asks us to look very carefully at ourselves as leaders. Is our speaking ever motivated by more self-serving needs that we may be unaware of, such as needing to appear competent, in the know, or on top of things, needing to justify our position in the face of disagreement or other opinions, needing to feel that we deserve the position or the influence that we hold? Leadership expert Marshall Goldsmith warns of a common leadership blind spot. That is a need to be seen to add value by adding our opinion to every discussion that we're in, which may unintentionally discount and discourage the contributions of other people. Finally, have you ever noticed a tendency to overtalk when you're feeling underappreciated, uncertain, stressed, or distracted by all those competing demands of your job? If you said yes, you're not alone. The key here, as with so many of the other topics we've discussed in this series, is noticing ourselves in action. And so now let's get to the how of speaking to support well-being. The 5 gatekeepers of speech are questions drawn from Buddhist teachings about compassionate and appropriate communication. And practicing these means that before we open our mouths to speak, we consider 5 questions. Is it what I'm about to say true? Is it kind? Is it beneficial? Is it necessary? And is it the right time for me to say this? Using the 5 gatekeeper questions is one way to look carefully into whether what we want to say is necessary at this time and whether it will really serve. Try this before giving feedback when your intention is to support a colleague's development. Without preparation, our comments may be heard as disrespectful, judgmental, or disempowering, and that's not what we were hoping for. I've found that using the 5 gatekeepers is extremely important and helpful when in an emotionally charged situation, where the words we speak are needed to turn a situation around for the better. Friends, I know this is not easy. Sometimes conversations are hard, and it takes time and practice to change old patterns of listening and speaking. The risk is that we will avoid hard conversations because we don't know what to say or how to deal with the emotions surrounding the conversations. Speaking the truth, even when it's hard, is an important trust behavior. And I invite you to consider adopting this intention, to always speak the truth with courage and kindness. Ask yourself these questions. How will I use my speaking to encourage one person every day? How can I be patient with others? Because I don't know what challenges they're facing today. How can I state my opinion without discounting other people's opinions? How will I reduce distractions when I'm speaking so that I'm making eye contact and really paying attention? And how will I avoid rushing in to fix problems and give advice? Leaders who support well-being practice humble curiosity. They listen to understand. And if you're interested in reading more about this, I recommend these 2 books, and Meg will put them in the chat. Edgar and Peter Shine's book, Humble Inquiry, The Gentle Art of Asking Instead of Telling, and Michael Bungay-Stanier's book, The Advice Trap, Be Humble, Stay Curious, and Change the Way You Lead Forever. Here are this week's leadership tips. Agenda tip number 20. Consider adding a meeting norm that supports listening. such as one voice at a time, or a 3-second pause before you respond normal. And for manager tip 20, practice wait. Why am I talking? To support your listening and ability to leave space for others' contributions and feelings. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please answer the 2 questions Meg's going to put in the chat before you leave, and I'll be back with you next week to talk about the importance of creating a social climate in which people know that their opinions count. As always, here are our resources, and now I look forward to answering your questions.